Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not going to be the only person potentially using your interview, could I ask you to say and spell your name for us?
Yulia Brockdorf, Yulia, last name B is Bravo, Rock, D is Delta, Orf as Frank.
And you're joining us from Ukraine today, correct?
I am. I'm joining from the front lines of Ukraine.
Right. And you travel back and forth from the US to the Ukraine. How long have you been there during this particular trip?
About a week and a half.
And we're speaking to you today because Presidents Trump and Presidents Putin are having their summit in Alaska.
Yes.
What's kind of the mood in Ukraine with this happening today?
Well, a lot of hope and a lot of concern because for Ukraine, it's not just a land swap. It's not only soil, it's future of our people. It's a future of our children and a cost for people who are defending Ukraine and people of future generations. It's There's no peace and no ceasefire without the return of the Ukrainian children. Russia has kidnapped, they had abducted 19,500 Ukrainian children. On top of that, they are holding over 8,000 Ukrainian POWs in most brutal conditions, and among them, 1,000 people from Azov, defenders of Mariupol, who are held in extra special torturous conditions. So these are human components of this discussion that are really essential and on everybody's mind here, in addition to territory concerns.
What are people hoping to see actually come out of today's meeting? Do you think anything substantial is going to happen?
Well, I think it's important to see both what happens and what does not happen. For any ceasefire, must affirm that Russia-occupied areas remain legally part of Ukraine. This mirrors U.S. stance on the Soviet occupation of Baltic states, and non-recognition preserves the future legal claims to that land. Also, accountability for war crimes, that there is no immunity in exchange for any peace talks. Because for Russia, war crimes are systematic and they are a key part of the military strategy, be it assault on civilians or the treatment of Ukrainian soldiers, or what type of weaponry is being used by the enemy forces, and including chemical weapons that are used by the enemy forces. And then the territory that Russia keeps wanting to take more and more, even of the territories that does not even occupy at this time. So we need to hold strong position on the territory discussion. And in the end of the day, the Ukraine cannot secede territory, because for us, it's our people, it's the future of our nation, and it's our right to exist. So these are very important components. And then security. If some sort of peace type of ceasefire will be reached, we need to make sure there is no restriction on Ukraine's military size or capabilities. Could be any part of the ceasefire discussion, and no ban on the foreign troops' presence in Ukraine, because these measures, short of that, would give Russia a strong edge, a military edge going forward. I don't hear you.
The war has been going on for several years
Yeah.
now. What kind of changes have you seen in the country and the kind of impact that it's been having?
It's almost 4 years, and the change that I see is it, it's a high cost. On one hand, people are exhausted. On another hand, people are much more focused and priorities are much clearer, be it for civilians or the soldiers. There is a high. Please, I take you back. Here you go. I'm gonna stand right here where I think is the best connection. I'll try not to move, but means I'm holding phone in my hands, and that not be as good. Let me see if I can set it. Okay, how about this?
Okay, much better. Thank you. Um,
Okay,
so
sorry
I,
about that.
oh, all good. So I would like to ask you that question over again since we lost you in the
Sure.
middle. So the question was, as you said, it's been nearly 4 years since the war started. What kind of changes have you seen in the country and the impact that the war has been having?
Every area of people's lives is impacted. It's changed how kids go to school. It's changed how the medical services are delivered. It changed how business is conducted because we have curfew times in some cities. Kids oftentimes spend their school days in a bunker. They need to pack not just lunches, sometimes they need to pack overnight backpack because they might not be able to leave the bunker to go home in certain area at certain time. The healthcare is impacted by the supply and logistics issues, and also by the very high strain on the medical industry altogether, since there's so many injured defenders that are receiving care. So the multiple areas are impacted. Families are impacted. So many children have either one or two parents that are deployed and they are defending their land. Many grandparents are now pay, are playing the role of the parents because mom and dad are fighting. And uncertainty is so impactful on just ability to know how to plan the next steps in life. And that that is hard. That is tough not to know. It is hard not to be able to make plans. Like right now, I am staying in a place just to have internet connection good enough to have this conversation. I didn't know if this vendor was going to be here in a second from now because a couple hours ago, I did a little study. I wanted to see how many explosions will I hear in durations of 2 hours, over 90. And this structure I'm in sometimes shakes. It just, you never know what's going to happen next. But at the same time, people are coming together, people are helping in any way they're able to, and they're trying to focus on the positives. I talked to one of the defenders, and he said, I really look forward to Christmas, to that festive time of the year. I don't know if I'll get to see my family, but I know I can imagine what it's like for them to have Christmas. And people are really looking forward to um, the times where they don't have to worry if the morning will come for them and meet them again, if they can see the sunshine again.
So even despite the talks of a potential ceasefire from what you just said, on the ground there, nothing's changing. The level of fighting is not indicating any direction towards a ceasefire.
You are very right. And because what we do know is that Russia cannot be trusted. They are double speaking and saying one thing while doing the very opposite of what they're saying. So while there could be conversation of ceasefire right now, we've been shelled just where I am at. We've been shelled very seriously. And I will believe it when I see it. And there is no ceasefire without some very key demands for POWs, for return of children, and for the legal status of Ukrainian lands occupied by Russia. I don't know if you just heard it. There was an explosion.
And, this round of talks are between President Trump and President Putin. President Zelenskyy has not been invited. As far as I'm aware, President Putin and President Zelenskyy have not really spoken directly. What do
That's
you
what I
think
understand.
it would take to bring these two leaders together and actually meet face to face?
It would need to be some serious options on the table that would be acceptable for Ukrainian, that are good with Ukrainian law and with Ukrainian demands. This is our land. This is Ukrainian land, and to which someone who decided they want a part of it entered, and now trying to dictate the rules of engagement just because they're bigger and they're stronger. We are teaching in our schools to stand up to bully. This is a good example of international bully. We are teaching our kids to express kindness and empathy and support of each other. And yet here we are in a place where we are considering negotiating with the aggressor. In any place of the violence, the right thing to do and the just thing to do is to stand by the one who is oppressed, to stand by the one who is innocent. Not in a case, it should be any different in the situation of Russian-Ukrainian war. Ukraine has surrendered third largest nuclear arsenal in the world, and yet Russia, US, and UK promised to protect Ukraine. It's time to show up and stand by those promises. Peace through strength, absolutely. So I think what we need to do to bring Putin to a serious negotiating table is to show really robust expression of strength by the allied nations. And that can bring the bully to the table for meaningful conversation, because to placate the bully, to try to appease the aggressor is only making him stronger. And we are not taking, as Americans, we are not taking this opportunity to take our enemy and bring them to their knees. Ukraine is fighting the war for US. Soviet Union, Russia, as part of the Soviet Union, has been our enemy for so many years. Just look at the nuclear arms race. And here we have such a beautiful opportunity to really put Russia on her knees. Resources are exhausted, economy is floundering, and we just need to give a nice, good, strong American push and make Russia small again. Allow the nation that Russia is occupying to be free again, because Russia just gobbles up nations under her and uses people from these nations to fight the wars, 2-for-1 genocide, killing people of the nations they're fighting and destroying the ethnic minorities from the nation that Russia is currently occupying.
And let's say a ceasefire is reached, we're able to come to an end to the war. What needs to happen next for Ukraine? There's been so much damage from the war. What does Ukraine need beyond just a ceasefire?
Well, Ukraine needs restoration of Ukrainian territorial integrity. There's a difference between ceasefire and end of the war, because ceasefire is a temporary ceasefire, but we need to have a clear articulation that Ukrainian lands are Ukrainian lands. They're legally Ukrainian lands and will be Ukrainian lands, and that will be returned to Ukraine. And Ukrainian people can live in Ukraine, not under occupation by the enemy state. Ukraine needs a lot of reconstruction, be it, will need a lot of support for Ukrainian ecology. Russia is using chemical weapons that are polluting the land. The land is and the animals are very severely impacted. The help for the wounded, the help for the infrastructure, the support to developing and rebuilding the structures that are easy access with ADA access and also eco-sound. We will need to have a support of those who want to repatriate back to Ukraine to integrate them economically into society so people can make a living being here. Because many people who left Ukraine had very comfortable and purposeful futures in front of them. Now they need to be able to have opportunity to rebuild those. There needs to be integration and taking next steps for an integration with European Union. And I would love to see Ukraine part of NATO. So making next steps for Ukraine is pretty diverse, and there's ways to come and to support that from various perspectives.
I covered all the questions that I had for you. Is there anything you would like to add that we haven't covered?
You had great questions. Thank you, Jessica. It's been really a pleasure speaking with you today, and I'm grateful that you care. I would like to see more media. Here, gorgeous lost light. I would like to see more media coverage if you would love. Would love to meet with you in the studio after I come back in about a week or so, or 2 weeks. We can talk again. And for the listeners, I would like to welcome people to check our website, would like to contribute with their time as volunteers, with their resources, to donate. There is so much everyone can do. And if collectively we all join and do more, there is much to be done. And also important to let your voice be heard and to know that you support Ukraine. It's important to you as American to support Ukraine. I think for me as American, it's important to support Ukraine and see this future for democracy, not just for Ukrainian land, but it impacts Europe, it impacts global security, it impacts capacity for the rule of law to be lived and exercised in the world versus world falling for authoritarian regime.